So here's what we've got. This 2001 Chevy Malibu that, going over bumps, it sounded like there was some suspension thump in the front end. And I checked for slop in the ball joints and didn't find any. And did reading online, and people talked about upper strut bushings and things like that. But what I didn't realize until later was that it had to do with the steering. So if you swing the wheel back and forth, you can hear the clunk pretty readily. Here it is. Don't know if you can hear that very well or not, but a very decided clunk clunk. Now, to locate it, we put it up on ramps and had a friend spin the wheel back and forth like that and look for what was moving. And the tie rods looked alright and the tie rod ends looked alright, but the driver's side of the steering rack was moving a 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch, maybe even 1/2 an inch sometimes. And so, looking further into it, we found where the mounting bolts were for the steering rack. There are 2 of them that hold it down into the subframe on this car, and decided to try to check the tightness on those. Unfortunately, the driver's side is very hard to get to. In order to replace the steering rack on this vehicle, you're supposed to drop the subframe, including disconnecting all of the lower suspension bits and pieces, like the lower ball joints and things like that. I'm going to attempt to get to the steering mount without doing that. Right now I cannot get a socket or a wrench or anything onto that the driver's side bolt, because the sway bar is directly in front of it, as well as a low pressure power steering line, but that can be moved out of the way. So I'm going to go ahead and put the vehicle up on jacks and jack stands or blocks and see if I can remove or loosen the 2 sway bar mounts to swing it up out of the way and get to that bolt. And when I get down there, once I get it up, I'll take a little bit of video of where the bolt is. So here we are under this 2001 Chevy Malibu with the steering clunk. Not sure if you can see, that is the passenger side front tire. There's the transmission oil pan, engine oil pan, subframe, driver's side front tire. Now, if we look up here behind, looking forward from behind to the subframe, we can see that silver line is a power steering line, and the black bar directly beneath it is the sway bar. Now, the bolt that we need to get to for the steering rack mount, I don't think you're going to be able to see it even, but it is directly, see that large looking bolt? That is not it. It is down and to the right. Actually, right there, you can just see it peeking through. Right there, between the sway bar and the frame. So the issue is there's no way to get any tool on that. What I'm going to attempt to do is loosen this sway bar bracket with that bolt right there, and loosen the other side sway bar bracket with the same bolt. That is, you can't quite see it behind the power steering line, but it's right there. And swing that sway bar up out of the way far enough that I can get a socket on there. And once I try doing that, Okay, so now we're down here. We've got the 2 main brackets loose on the sway bar. That bolt's out. Can't really tell from here, but it's out. And then this bolt is out as well, and I've flipped the bracket up out of the way. But in order to do that, I had to pull this guy out right there, pull the top off so we'd get a little more flex. Now, I'm afraid that I don't think I'll be able to get on this still. You can now very clearly see the bolt that is the problem right there, and there's no way still to get a socket on there, I don't think. However, I may be able to get a wrench on now and flip it up and down a little bit in that spare space, so that's what I'm going to give a shot to. It's a pretty ugly setup. Alright, we're finally getting it. Ended up doing, with just those 3 brackets I already mentioned that were loose, the 2 main brackets on the subframe and then the outer end. Now you can pull the sway bar back just a little bit away and you can fit a wrench on there. I have a gear wrench with a closed end on that 18mm or whatever that is in standard bolt, and I can get about a click and a half out of it each time around. And so I'm going to get it good and tight and hope I don't have to drop the subframe. Okay, here we are in this Malibu after tightening the left steering rack mount to the subframe, and we're going to check out how much clunk there is in the steering now. Virtually none. That sounds much better. So there's the problem. There's another video I'll link to that in the description to this that shows that same left mount on the subframe just torn off and the rack absolutely loose. So apparently this isn't the only, I am not the only person that's found some issue with that front left bolt or that front left mount.